Hello beautiful beings, and thank you for joining me again. Going on from the last few episodes, what I'll be covering today has got to do with our thoughts and them affecting reality. So with the title, today you can see it there, prayer, thoughts and sound have an effect. And we're going to go into showing a little bit of evidence towards this. Like I say, everything is consciousness and awareness, which goes into a vibratorial state, which is sound. Sound creates light and light creates matter. And more through doing this, I'm going to be presenting evidence of this as well. If you can understand that, you can understand the nature of being able to, we could say, go trans-dimensional. Being able to go through different densities of consciousness. Now, this is from Stanford University. And as we can see here, sound gives birth to light. Like I was saying, and I actually believe that there is a way to reverse that as well. Now here's an article from Vice. This is sort of known out there. There's a bit of what we could say discrepancies or difference in opinions with this. But what we've got here is a recent experiment at the Large Hadron Collider transformed energy into mass by smashing photons together to produce W bosons, which are short-lived forms of matter. So they're smashing photons together and creating matter for a very short-lived time. And all it is just food for thought with this. And I want to go into how all is connected. Now here's somebody that I've known for quite some time now, probably around 10 years, probably a little bit less. Michael Lee Hill. Now he's somebody that's an experiencer, and quite some time ago, he was on UFO Hunters, and quite an exciting episode, I think, with what transpired in that. Now, from further contacts, he was sort of led to what I'm about to show you. And he's allowed me to share some information with you that he's been sharing with the public for quite some time. What this is he had, or I'll quote him here, I had the scientist at CymaScope image my guitar's A note tuned to 432 Hertz. This was the result. Now look at that. Now, CymaScope, what they're doing, and many other scientists were doing it in different ways, where they might have, let's say, a square sheet of metal, and they'll play a vibration through a speaker underneath it. And by putting sand on it, you start to see these geometric forms appear, and they change as, we could say, they up the frequency or lower it in the speaker. Now this is quite amazing here, what they're doing at CymaScope, and they've got apps for this now as well. But what they're doing is they've got a device, and on the top they've got a little dish where they can put water in it, and they play a tone through it, and they're getting high imagery of what the tone or frequency that's being played through the speakers is creating geometrically. So this is quite amazing, and he actually sells these as discs on his website, which there'll be a link below. There's actually an effect from even looking at this and just taking it in, whether subconsciously or to those that are very sensitive, you may feel some differences in your energy. Quite an amazing thing this is, and discovery. If you look closer at it, what you're going to actually see is some binary code in it, which is, again, amazing. So there's zeros, ones in it, and this is appearing naturally appearing. And I believe that throughout, we could say, all nature, not only is there geometry, but there is coding and information, just like within us. With Greg Braden's work, I think it's called the God Code. Within our DNA, God is actually written in that, in, I believe, 4 languages. This is another image he provided to me. Now, most music these days is, we could say, tuned to 440 Hertz. Now, as you can see from this, on the right, there's some geometry to it, but it's not harmonizing. And that's where I've spoken about before, that everything's got vibration, but when you harmonize with a certain frequency or field, you become one with it. That's where, through intention and meditation, those that have got trans-dimensional abilities, they can experience the many mansions or the other worlds. And so, just to give you an example how, if you are operating your music at 432, look at the left. Look at the perfect geometry. Now, of course, that's pulsating, but it's a lot clearer at that hertz than it is at 440. So there's quite a difference between 432 and 440. And many people these days are doing their meditation music to 432, and there's a sequence that goes above and below, and they're doing it at that and finding different effects that it has on the body, the energy, and clarity of mind, and even spiritual connection. This is also what we see, and this is a NASA photograph in infrared of 432 hertz water. This is another thing that Michael shared with me, and this is from Richard C. Hoagland. Now, Richard C. Hoagland, he was what we could say the face of the Apollo project for people like Walter Cronkite, humanising the Apollo missions. And he's very well known for the face on Mars as well. And we could say going outside of the box with science and what's happening in space, on the moon, Mars, what have you. This is what he had to say about what Michael Lee Hill's discovery was. Michael Lee Hill's 432 hertz based numerical values, which turn out to be the same key numbers marking the Earth's 25,920 year precessional cycle, and thus the same key numbers crucial to the cycle activation of hyperdimensional physics on Earth. Richard C. Hoagland. Now, this is a bit of his data, and it may be my own interpretation, but what we have, and in a way what he's describing here, is we're experiencing, we could say, 3D reality here. Now, to experience that, part of what's producing and allowing us to experience this in the way that we are is the moon circling around the Earth, and the Earth and moon going around the sun. What this does is it opens up a gate, we could say, for life to exist in the third dimensional reality. This is the hyperdimensional physics that he's speaking about. So if we didn't have the moon, we would have, let's say, 700 mile an hour winds on the surface. We wouldn't have the tides. There's a lot of things that we wouldn't have. So there's a whole connection here that far expands what I'll even talk about here today. But that's why I even say on other planets that I've been to, the space and time that they're experiencing is depending on the satellites circulating, we could say, the planetary body, meaning the moon or moons that are circulating the planet, and where it is from its parent star. So there is a lot of effects here of what satellites, moons, will have on their, we could say, the planet body that it's spinning around and the star that it's going around. And so this is why we could go to certain places and there won't be life existing in the way that we would think in the reality that we're experiencing, but you could also adapt to those places. It just depends. There's many factors at play with this as well. So I'm not going to say it's this or that and this is how it operates. And that's the thing with all this, is that people want a black or white answer and see it that way, but really there's so much in that grey area that needs to be explored, because in some cases that's where the answer lies. So looking at this, sound creates geometry, as we've just seen. But what if thoughts do as well? Well, here's Dr. Emoto, and what I'm about to show you, I've been allowed to show from Hiro, Dr. Emoto's son, and also Michiko, who are part of the Emoto Peace Project.net. And these images are from what we could say many years of research that Dr. Emoto did, who's no longer with us. Now, what this experiment is that he was doing for a very long time and still is being carried out, you get water and expose it, let's say, to a certain word. After that time, you get a milliliter of that water and you drop it into a Petri dish and then you freeze it. Now, when they observe it 100 times to 200 times and magnify it, what you see is that water has a geometric structure to it that's different depending on the word that it was exposed to. So let me give you some examples that, again, I've been allowed to use the imagery and show you this. And this has been out for many years, so it's nothing new, but for the newcomers, this is some food for thought. So this is the effect of water when exposed to the word evil. Thank you. Look at that. See the difference? Beautiful. Beautiful geometry to it. And this is when water's exposed to the word I hate you and I love you. Look at the difference. It's quite amazing. So again, this is the negative. It's murky, it's not structured, it's distorted. And then there is structure and geometry to the positive. And it's just got a complete different energy to it when looking at it. So harmony brings balance and perfect geometry. Going into this even a little bit further, think about what water does to the body with our thoughts. Now there's a little bit of a difference around the world with how much water is in our body, but from this here USGS website, it says, in adult men, about 60% of their bodies are water. However, fat tissue does not have as much water as lean tissue. In adult women, fat makes up more of the body than men. So they have about 55% of their bodies made of water. So when we look at this, if we're around, let's say, 50, 60, could even be more percent of water, that's what we've got within us. Imagine what your thoughts are doing to the structure of that water. Even though it's not frozen, there is still a structure going on through our emotions, through our feelings, through our thoughts. And it's just, again, some food for thought to really think about this. Also, following on with Dr. Emoto's work, they've done, let's say, prayers to water. Many different experiments to where each and every time you'll see an effect. And again, if it's positive, you'll get this beautiful geometry and this vibrant energy to it. If it's not positive, there's distorted energy to it. And I just hope this is beneficial for you, because we're in a world where a lot of people wake up stressed, work, bills, got to do this, got to do that. And their frequency is very much low because of what we could deem as stress or depression. There's many byproducts that people deal with their own realities in different ways. But if one can be open and have the intent to be more positive, feeling it and just even thinking it can have an effect not just on your body, but the way I explain this is if you change within, that projects outside of yourself, so your reality changes around you as well. And we can see the science with this, that our thoughts have an effect, but also words have an effect, and even sound has an effect. Even though it might seem very minimal, our thoughts, in the way that they can affect people, there is a huge ramification to each and every action. And this is why I say what you do and what you say affects everyone and everything. People having negative thoughts to somebody else, it has an effect. A mass group of people having negative thoughts to someone can drive them insane. So this is why I say to people, instead of belittling people or being argumentative, doing a prayer, sending love to somebody else, this is a beautiful effect. It's better to be positive and thoughtful of others and have gratitude and love than to go on the bandwagon of what we could say a destructive energy. So like I was just saying, imagine what people's thoughts do to you and what your thoughts do to them. And this is the very basics of, this is sort of like the 101 of ascension, we could say, is changing your thoughts. And if you're catching yourself, like I say, if you're going stage left, which is into a negative state, a depressive state, what happens is catching yourself when you're about to go into that state and changing your thought, whether to a positive action, a positive thought, could be going for a walk, just getting yourself off that bandwagon of going left like many of us do in the world. What you do over time is you create new neuron pathways in the brain to where it will over time get easier and easier for negative things to bounce off, come back to the present, be responsible for your actions and take responsibility for good and bad things, and deal with what you can in the present moment, not from a past perspective and not even from a future perspective. Doesn't mean don't look into the future and want to have a better life for yourself and others and be more productive and have goals and visions. But in the present moment and connecting to the heart, which is absolutely key with this, you can not only transform yourself, but you're playing your part in transforming the world. And this is why I say clearings are very important as well. Because if you're in a state where, again, we've seen the effects of what thoughts and, like I was saying, prayers through Dr. Emoto's work can have on water, and we're made up of a lot of water, it's also going into the cells, the molecules of the body. In effect, even the light body is going into a higher vibratorial state by positive actions and positive thoughts. And that's why I always say clearings are a form of like checking in with yourself, how you're feeling, transmuting energies, especially if, let's say, you're a paranormal investigator, ghost hunting, or you're wanting to initiate contact, you're going to do your practices, whether it's yoga, meditation, qigong, tai chi, anything. It's like checking in with yourself, giving love to yourself first is key, because if you do that to yourself first and look after number one, the ramifications for everyone else that comes into your presence is tenfold in the way that you could be of service to them than otherwise, because you're first giving 100% to you, and that means everyone else is getting 100% as well. And just think about the implications of even our thoughts have with contact. What I can tell you is that a lot of people think they're ready for contact. But a majority of these intelligences, especially the higher intelligences, when they come to your presence, they can read you like a book. All your good thoughts, all your bad thoughts, everything that you've done, everything you thought about doing, they can see it all. But they've got love and compassion. Where what I say is some of the darkness, the masters of the lower light, they too can read you like a book. And they can bring things up from the past, whether it's traumas, little things that are going to trigger you. And a lot of the time with people that have done the inner work, they'll bring that up as well. Sometimes it's just showing you need to do more work if you get something negative and turn it into something positive. But they try to trigger you through the R part of the brain to go into a lower vibratorial state. And so this is why clearings are important. But the point of what I'm saying here is, could you deal with somebody being able to know everything about you just by being in your presence? And I don't think a lot of humanity at this time could deal with that. We've all made mistakes, but this is where if you could be open to that, and like I said, they don't have judgment on that. They've got love, compassion, but it's the way that it operates. These beings can read you like a book, and there is nothing that can be hidden. There's no closets to put anything in. To add to this, also having positive thoughts is what's needed, and being in a high vibratorial state with making contact. John Vivanco, the remote viewer, is also in my documentary Multidimensional. He's very well known for what he does and respected. We had a conversation, we've had it a few times actually, where, like he said to me, if you're in a lower state, or worse, the effect of when these beings are around, what it's like, or if you're freaking out when contact's taking place, it's literally like throwing a brick at them. And I do say to a lot of people, you usually don't have time to react until after the fact when the contact's taken place. And yes, you can be taken aback, but you also go into an altered state and a higher state of consciousness, whether it's with physical or non-physical contact, when it is with those that are of the light. So it's just something I wanted to add here. So I just wanted to throw some recommendations in here of things that you may be able to implement or do with what's been presented here today. Maybe make a practice of blessing your water. Also write a positive word on your water bottle, so every time you're drinking out of that water bottle, there's a positive energy coming into you and affecting also the molecular structure of the body and the water within the body. On my water dispenser here, I've got positive words all over it, and that's the water that I have for my smoothies and everything. I've been doing that for years now. Bless your food, bless yourself, and also bless the world, the universe, God, and beyond. So there's my websites for any more information, and I just hope this has been beneficial for you. Blessings and be well.